Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Bloody Good Horror. This evening, we will be discussing Late Night with the Devil. I don't know who directed it. Some person. Starring that guy whose name I can't pronounce. Dalmatian. That guy, the tall guy that everybody loves. Joining me tonight, first up from Manhattan, New York City. Lots of tall people there, John. Please welcome John to the show.
We have people of all shapes and sizes.
You got that many people in a city, there's bound to be a bunch of tall people, right? That's the way.
Yeah, some of them are tall.
Next up on the show, from the Bay Area of San Francisco, please welcome Rachel.
Hi, thanks for having me back.
And last up tonight, from Indiana, please welcome Casey.
Hello.
I watched this movie, John.
Mm-hmm.
I did see the AI. We can talk about it later. I have a couple thoughts.
You knew it was there, though, before.
No, of course. We'll wait. I want to wait. Let's wait.
All right.
That's a teaser, John.
That's content, baby.
Thank you.
I've been teased.
Mission accomplished. All right. Well, I can't wait. Let's do it. Let's hop in and discuss Late Night with the Devil.
This is it, Jennifer. There's big breaking TV. Dr. Prime Time. Main feature.
You know what I was doing right before the show, John? Before I got on? I was
What's
trimming
that?
my nose hair.
Party.
Is
Yeah.
there any greater indignity? Like, do you ever feel like more of just an absolutely disgusting animal than when you are trimming your nose hair?
Maybe when you're waxing them. You know what I mean?
You've seen my back.
No, I heard you don't pull them out because they can get like infected and ingrown really easily.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense. But I'm just saying if you wanted to feel worse, because like at least with trimming them, they just sort of, the shame falls away, right? Whereas when you wax them, it's there.
But my
on
problem with
display.
trimming them, but I want to pull them out because my problem with trimming them is they don't fully go away.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
It's like a week later, and they're back, baby.
Oh, yeah. It's
Yeah.
just,
I
I'm
know.
still thinking about it. It's been about a half an hour.
Apparently.
You got the electric trimmer now, right?
I do
You're
have
not
an
using,
electric trimmer.
scissors.
I'm not gonna lie to you, Casey. This time was scissors because that's what I had at
Yeah.
my disposal at the moment.
Right.
But I do have a trimmer. Yeah.
Dude, you like couldn't wait? You were just like, nah, I've got to
absolutely
do it so
not.
bad. I'm getting it.
Well, because it starts tickling in there, and you got to get rid of it.
I can understand that.
Thank you, Casey.
That's crazy. That's crazy talk.
Yeah.
I had this like 7th grade teacher with so much ear and nose hair that it was like a daily topic of conversation in class.
Mhm.
And I always just remember thinking like that looks like living hell. And I was right. It's terrible.
Plus, it's
Right.
allergy season. You got to stay on top of it.
At least we're allowed to manscape now, John. So
It's true.
I guess
It would have been
Thank you,
unacceptable
feminism.
for here.
Yeah, that's right, Rachel. Another victory
You're
for feminism.
welcome.
I love it.
I
Welcome to
guess,
beauty standards. Have fun.
Oh Lord. All right.
It's not about beauty for Eric, to be clear. It's his nose was itching, so he had to get scissors in there.
No, it's both. I'm pretty
Yeah.
vain. I don't know if you
No,
know
I
this
know.
about me. Yeah.
Mhm. I do.
All right. Let's take a quick. No, let's not take a quick break, John. Let's just do
Let's just go.
the word of the day.
Let's just wrap it up. Screw it. Straight to the end.
Eric, today's word is backhaul. That's BACKHAUL, backhaul. Two definitions. Two definitions of the noun backhaul. Cargo carried on a return journey. It can also mean, you can use it as a verb to carry something on a return journey. But the one that I care about, an unedited video transmission via satellite or other means to a network or station. A frequency on which such transmissions of backhaul occur.
I have never heard that term, but
No.
it does sound
Oh.
like it sounds like a real TV engineer term, and TV engineers are like an alien species on themselves, so that makes sense.
Not a
It's
lot
like
of
the
nose hair trimming
jargon.
over there. Mhm.
They're just,
That's kind of engineers in general, just FYI.
Well, yes, of course, but those are the ones I have experience with.
um,
Love it, John. Well, why don't you tell
Backhaul.
me why you picked that word and tell me about this movie.
Yeah, sure. Late Night with the Devil comes to us from presumably brothers, although I did not fact check this. Cameron and Colin Cairns. They are
It would be funny if they
Australian.
weren't brothers and just
It was
have fake
coincidence.
same last name so
Yeah.
they can pretend to be like a brother team.
It's Australia. I mean, Cairns could be the Smith of Australia for all I know. So, but the Cairns, I did take a quick look at their IMDb. Not like they've done some other stuff. They've been writers on some things, but this was the first feature that I was familiar with. It might be no, they did something called the Scare Campaign. That's a feature, 100 Bloody Acres. But yeah, so this is their third film. Yeah, I mean, they both wrote and direct. So this stars, as Eric mentioned, David Dastmalchian. Is that someone want to correct me on that? Where are we landing?
I will
with-
continue saying
I've
that.
always heard
Right.
it as I think that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dastmalchian.
Yeah.
He plays
Terrible.
Jack Delroy.
Is that how you pronounce Delroy?
Delroy. I guess the setup we should get into before we even get into the characters is the movie opens and we have this voiceover, and the voiceover is both explaining to us the career trajectory of Jack Delroy, who is a late night TV host, who in the time of the film, and the film's set in mid 70s, like 78. I don't know. I assume it's during the
77.
Carter
No,
77, I think.
77.
77. Okay, so it was Carter. So he is very explicitly in competition with Johnny Carson to sort of be the king of late night. So he's presented here as like this also ran going up against Johnny Carson. He's on, like it's called like UPH or something, the network that he's a part of that his show is broadcast through. But this is all set up in this preamble voiceover. The film itself, as we are told, is actually the final episode of the show, which is called what's it called? Late Night? It's called Late
Night
Night.
Is it
Owls,
the final?
yeah.
Was it
Night
the
Owls.
final? Is that the
Night-
setup? It's the final episode?
Well,
Well,
Eric, yes, it's the
spoilers.
final.
No, but it was
Spoiler
not
alert.
intended to be.
No, but
That's what I'm
But
saying.
again, the voiceover is explaining to us.
Right,
like,
right.
you're
There's
about
a
to
little
watch this
like
thing.
10-minute info dump mockumentary bit in the beginning, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that basically tees up the fact that we're watching what is like sort of a blended found footage film where we're seeing the final, like actual taped transmission of this episode, which is from Halloween night, 1977. Jack Delroy has been waning in the standings, the polls. I was going to call them the ratings. His ratings have been declining. So in sort of like a not a last ditch, but in a bid for sweeps success, he's going to do this Halloween episode where he's going to bring on this girl who is the subject of a book with a parapsychologist who has been studying her. The girl was part of like a cult, the Abraxas cult, which I think is fake for the movie, although you all maybe I don't know.
Abraxas is really good, John, if you need to clean your tub.
Good Santana album was my only reference point for Abraxas. But so this girl's part of the cult. He's going to bring her on, and basically like that's the centerpiece of this episode. There's like some other shit that's going to happen, and we'll talk about some of the other characters. But what we then see is Jack Delroy hosting this episode, and then during the commercial breaks, we're presented with what the voiceover explains to be like never before seen footage. It's just sort of like filmed interstitials, like kind of breaking the found footage format, but like in a way that's like vaguely, I don't know, maybe they were like filming the backstage and like the mics were still live or whatever. It's a little hand wavy, but we can get into it.
There is nothing mentioned in the movie that would explain those shots. It doesn't ruin the movie. I'm just pointing it out.
No,
That is fourth wall breaking.
The preamble says that there's like this is like never before said, but whatever. So that the arc of the film is the arc of the show. It's like
Listen,
an hour
I
long.
mention it because all they had to do was be like, we were shooting this behind the scenes documentary on this very night. That's all you gotta do. Just hand wave it away. And then you're
Those
like, okay.
cameras were much better than the
Yeah.
actual cameras.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and so the arc of the film is the arc of the show. There's a lot of like detail, like there's more detail than you would think, like comes into the story here about Jack Delroy's career, his marriage to his wife who has passed away, the relationship that he has to the parapsychologist, and then the other sort of like the main, I guess you would call them the main antagonist, is this skeptic, former magician slash hypnotist who is converted to skepticism and is now like making a career kind of like going around debunking parapsychology and other people. You know, he explicitly calls out the Warrens, which I thought everyone would appreciate.
I did.
I did.
He makes fun of them.
He does. So yeah, I mean, that's the setup. I mean, like, I don't know. We can just get into it from there.
Casey, what'd you think?
So I bought into the hype of this a lot, and excuse me, didn't get to see it in the theater, so I was really excited when it dropped on Shudder. Watched it that night, and I was kind of blown away. But I also got to the end of it like, what the hell did I just watch? To a slight extent, so I rewatched it again this weekend, coming in for this show, and I really enjoyed it. The back-to-back watch didn't really add much, but it's worth watching again. I would say you're not going to necessarily learn something new, but it's just kind of fascinating. I wasn't, with all the hype, I made sure not to read in, watch too many trailers or anything like that. I knew what the basic idea was going to happen going through here. I enjoyed the mockumentary parts at the beginning. I think David Dastmalchian's great in anything he's in, so I thought he was a great choice for this. He nails that 70s vibe of a 70s talk show host. It was a good time there. And then they get to the part with where the main attraction's happening. And I will add, and we'll get into it later, the extra stories that are going on in here were fun too, and I thought they added a lot. But we get to the main story, and I liken it kind of like a pump fake in basketball. They kind of line up and they show us this possession thing that's going to happen and what's going on. And my first reaction was, and that kind of wraps up a little bit. They kind of put an end on it, and I'm like, well, that was cool, but that's the same shit I've seen before. And then all of a sudden the good stuff happens. So I was really entertained by this. And I love anything that's slightly culty and whatnot. It just adds a nice fun flair to it. And I like the setup that they had here and the way that the story wraps around it. It was a good time for a cult movie.
Welcome back, Rachel. What'd you think?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of elements of this that I am like an absolute sucker for. It has, it's a kind of a mockumentary, which I always really like. Religious horror, because of all of my religious trauma, always sort of resonates. There's satanic panic elements that I really love. There's kind of this take on American folk horror that has sort of like this undercurrent of an anti-capitalist message that, of course, I resonated with. And then, of course, conspiracy theories. We all know I love a good conspiracy theory, especially Bohemian Grove. That's one of my favorites. Mm-hmm. So when all those things come together, plus
Rachel, John's right there. Be careful.
I know, right? I'm going to see the owl mask descending into the frame. But yeah, and then there's like the vintage aesthetics. So of course I like that. I do think that it is
too.
Yes. So I do see some flaws with this. I think where I struggle with it is when the movie starts breaking its own rules, because I feel like the best parts of this, the scariest parts of this, are the more subtle scares that are happening when it's sort of happening within the framework it's introduced us to. And I think that this could really be overhyped. I think if you've heard that this is going to be the scariest movie of the year, you're going to be disappointed. It's more of just like a solid indie film with some unique ideas and some fun scares along the way. But
I would also add, if you've heard it's better than Ghostwatch, you've been misinformed.
That as well. Although, man, does it lift from Ghostwatch? Like,
it does.
crazy.
Yeah.
Like,
listen,
even our
if you're gonna do this thing, that's the movie to lift from.
True.
John,
But yeah.
what'd you think?
I am generally aligned. I look like this thing has been hyped up a lot. Like I think there was a lot of buzz. I'm not even a person on the internet, and I knew there was buzz. You know, like the buzz was in.
You're the only
air,
person I know
you
that can say that, and it's actually true.
Yeah, I know.
Analog
I mean,
buzz.
I like own a phone that I look at all the time. Like I'm not on the internet, but it's. I guess what I would say is I love what this thing is swinging at. You know, like I
Yeah.
like what it's setting out to do. It's a little wonky in the execution in ways that like undercut it at times. Like I guess for me, I don't know. And we don't like this isn't necessarily a spoiler. The like second ending, I just that to me was a little much, and it like goes to places where it was like it's also a bit over explaining. You know, from a narrative standpoint, I didn't need it necessarily. It's sort of like, yeah, I got it, guys. Like I understand what's happening.
Well, I
It's
also think while I understand why they did it, it opens so explainy. Like the decision. Go ahead. I don't want to interrupt you. I have thoughts on that as well.
But I actually was fine with that. Like what I liked is that sets up. There's an exposition dumps suck most of the time. If you're gonna doing one right at the beginning, a la, I don't know, fucking Star Wars, where you get the like scroll, you know, like if you're gonna do something, just do it, and then like let the film happen. And so, but then they felt the need to like come back to it. Look, the movie's only like it's under 90 minutes, I'm pretty sure. So there's a little bit of like it would have been like 75 minutes if they hadn't kind of.
Do you know
added
how
that
you
stuff in
fix
there.
that? You make fake commercials, which is what I wanted this movie to have had.
That's totally fair. And honestly, I feel like you could have done it. Look, one of the most underused characters, or underused isn't even the right word, like I just didn't care for him, was the producer. Because I didn't know what the hell I was supposed to be taking away from him.
I like that actor though.
He's just slimy.
Yeah, he's like a scumbag, but like he's in on it, I think. Like he's like he was part of the.
That's a good call because I didn't have a read on that.
That would make sense, although I'm not sure I picked that up. But there was other things I texted you guys that I feel like I should have picked up that I didn't.
So I don't know. In any event, like I'm like glad I watched this. It's pretty good. I would recommend this to certain, whatever. But like, it's also not like I had higher expectations maybe going in than I should have. I also think if I'd seen this in the theater with a crowd, I would have had a different experience than watching this at home, sort of by myself. So
yeah,
that's fair.
I'm pretty in line with everything else, everything that's been said. I'm gonna say I'm a Rachel tonight. Let's say, but so I'm going to say a bunch of positive things, and I'm going to say some less positive things. But
You've cracked my code, sir.
It's a real good time. It is very clear, the 70s period stuff is very lovingly done. This David Dalmatian guy, he's great. And you know what I kept thinking of watching him, like it's like I'm not saying he's got the same like vibe. But I could see this guy. He clearly loves horror. He's doing a ton of horror stuff. He's like all tall and lanky. I'm like, this dude is like a young Vincent Price, basically. Like a young modern day Vincent Price where he just loves horror. And I would just love to see him like just continue to do this stuff into old age and just be like spooky horror dude. But he clearly loves it. He's a really talented actor. He gets a chance to show a little bit of range here. I think the script is real wonky and it's saved by him in a lot of ways.
Well, I was going to say, I think he is acting really fucking hard with like not a lot to work with at certain points.
No, but it's so. But I think there's too much. That's, I guess, my main complaint. I was going to say more positive stuff too. Here, I'll say more positive stuff first. The first act to me is like, I'm just kind of waiting for it to get going. But everything from the moment that first like demon part happens on.
With the vomiting?
No, like when she first channels the demon and it's like talking. And I guess that's maybe that. No, it's after the
vomiting's before. Yeah, before that. Yeah.
No, it's when they've got her in the chair and the other doctor woman like actually gets a demon and they start talking. The movie's cooking from there on out. Like, I'm all for it. I love it's got a couple of great gross out moments, some good jump scares. A couple of the jump scares got me. Like, no, I wouldn't call it like terrifying, but like one of the ones, it was with the girl where her head is down. And then she kind of was like, huh, like that one scared the shit out of me. So it has some moments. That worm scene, freaking brilliant. Like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
love the
Really good.
execution of that scene.
Although
I-
we can come back to that because that to me, pacing wise, was a little wonky. But we,
I
Sorry.
love the young girl actor who plays this sort of possessed girl. She is creepy and really great in that role. And I love the doctor. I love the woman who plays the like paranormal research or whatever.
Yeah.
My one
apparently
actor.
one of the stars of Saw 5.
Oh, my
Yeah.
favorite. No, I don't remember. My one actor beef in this movie is the skeptic guy. This
Ah.
guy is giving strong local theater energy, and I was not a fan. Like,
I loved it. I thought that was intentional.
and I guess that maybe part of that is like my overall kind of thing with this that I think stops it from being great, like on a Ghostwatch level, is like Ghostwatch is just a different beast in that it was truly made to trick people using like real news people and a production company that makes news all the time. And so even though it's antiquated now, the way the news looks like, and it's shot on film, which now you can, if you're at all like media literate or like we are, you can be like, oh, that's film. That's not like videotape. Right. But there is an authenticity to the television experience of Ghostwatch that is what makes it so memorable and so unique. And if you remember, John, at the time, that sent me down a rabbit hole where I found out there was a bunch of other TV movies that were fully made to look like real news events. Like there was one with asteroids destroying the Earth, and they literally made a fake like Sunday night movie that you watch like 7 or 8 minutes of, and it's like a murdery Sunday night movie, and then they cut in with a news thing, and it was like an old CBS person, and they were like, asteroids are going to destroy the fucking Earth, and then it's like 2 hours of like. So I went down a whole rabbit hole with that whole genre. I just prefer found footage that stays to it, because to me the whole point of it is that when found footage is done well and it feels authentic, it creates a realism that just sucks you in. That's the whole point, right? So to me, every time,
Eric,
what's that?
there's a word for that.
What?
Verisimilitude.
Verisimilitude. There we go. That's what we want in our found footage. And I think, so I think where this movie is a little wonky for me is that it wants to have all this backstory, which fine. But they clearly at some point in pre-production realized like, shit, we can't get all this information in naturally in like a truly found footage film. And so they make two decisions that to me are like a little iffy. And that is like the 10-minute mini doc in the beginning. It was moving too fast to feel authentic. And I didn't like it felt more like an info dump at the beginning of a movie than a document. I'll sit through a mockumentary. I've sat through many, John, and I love them, but make it feel real. And this just felt like we're trying to get all this information so that we can start the movie. And then like the movie starts, and then the decision to like kind of break the fourth wall in the commercial breaks. It's also just like, I get why they did it. They really wanted to have a real whole like backstory of this character. They wanted a thing going on with the wife and with the doctor, and the story itself I like. I don't necessarily love the execution of how it's told.
But none of that interstitial commercial break stuff. I'm trying to think, does any of it move the plot forward in a meaningful way?
There's one point.
Christo.
We find out about Christo,
Sure,
and we
but-
find out that because at one point the producer's looking at a monitor saying, "We're not seeing that."
I feel like all of this could have
It was
been
a throwaway
done.
line.
I feel like if you really trimmed the script a little bit and they really thought about it, all of this could have been done with like, let's just pretend he's got a hot mic in the commercial break and the audience can't hear him, but we can. And people come up and whisper in his ear and tell him shit, or they sit down next to him and talk to him. Like that was one really realistic thing, is like, you would think TV talent would take being on television really seriously and be like in their seat, ready to go a minute before air. They are absolutely not. Like every single one of them is like smoking a cigarette outside or eating or like doing something stupid until literally 1 second before they're. And I've seen people get in trouble, like screw up and not realize they're on air. So that part did feel pretty authentic, like just the running around and he's like, nobody's in place until the last moment. But whatever, that's just me and my weird esoteric found footage beef. Like you could have, I feel like if they really thought about it, they could have gotten everything in. Here's a word, Rachel, diegetically. I don't know if I'm using that right, but here we are. So anyway, but that said, like, again, I really think it really takes off once that first exorcism thing happens. And there are just some really fun sequences. I love the effect when the girl's kind of head opens up and there's like, I don't know, what we call that, hell light coming out of it. And I actually was all down for the ending. Like it's a little, the final scene with him and the wife is a little schmaltzy, but that reveal is fantastic. And it reminds me of the end of Ghost Watch where everyone's gone except you just hear this kind of disembodied voice and like a cat screeching and like there's papers flying around everywhere. I love the just because there's so much noise and then there's nothing and you just see him on the set with all the dead bodies. I thought that was pretty great. I did, but again, we're breaking the wall, right, in order to show that.
Well,
but
that whole end sequence is not like we have left the universe of the show happening. So
maybe, but you could make an argument that people at home are seeing that because they were also like hypnotizing and like
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Magic
so, like,
over the airwaves, devil magic. I don't know. Like,
well, and the film does end with the end transmission, and then there's like I don't know if you noticed, but there was like a little "We have completed our task" or something.
Yeah.
At the
well,
end,
and so to your point, Casey, that guy's acting. I actually think that guy's performance, although I don't think he's as good as the other actors, the hamminess does kind of fit with the overall tone, which is pretty over the top.
And the person who was a hypnotist turned skeptic. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
he was a
that is
magician.
gonna have theater's kid energy.
It was just
100%.
distracting to me. It literally reminded me of the guy in American Movie who stars in his short. I don't know if anyone else has seen American Movie 400 times like I have.
No, I've seen it.
There's a local
times.
like actor in American Movie that totally reminds me of this dude. I didn't love it, but he, you know, he's acting his heart out. He's going.
Plus it was in the 70s, and those guys, you know, like to Rachel's point, in the 70s with the magicians and the, you know, the psychics and hypnotists and stuff like that, they were a big deal.
No,
they poured it on.
For sure, and you see that too in like the mentalist guy. Like you see that in his performance as well.
Oh yeah.
But overall, it's a lot of fun. I agree. Like it's definitely in danger of being overhyped, and I think a lot of that is like if you see this with a horror audience at a festival or something, people are going to lose their minds over it. Is that how you saw it, Rachel?
No, I didn't. But like, I mean, I know about that festival madness. There have definitely been movies where I came out of it like on fire for, and then I was like, oh, it's so good. And then we watched it and I was like, yeah, I think festival madness.
And listen, that doesn't invalidate that festival experience. It's really cool. But that's also not the way the vast majority of people are going to experience it.
Well, I think
it's
that
actually... This reminds me of exactly the kind of movie I would have found like as a kid on like Coffee TV 20 on a Sunday afternoon. You know, like this is actually
Coffee. Was that a local station thing?
Yes, yeah, it's like a local thing, and they would show horror movies like in the afternoons on Sunday. So it's like where I saw like Alice, Sweet Alice, and things like that. You know,
I bet they had the greatest bumpers ever.
Oh, incredible! And we had like a local sort of horror host, and but to me, this feels like almost like a hidden gem from that era, and that would be the perfect way to see it with zero hype, and you just go in and fall under the spell of the world as it's presented.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think a lot of people are going to be bummed when they watch this because it's been overhyped, and that's too bad.
Well, this movie to me, and this is spoilery, but this movie, whether you like it or not, entirely hinges on that second possession scene when the girl's head splits open and the weird shit starts. You're either going to say, holy shit, I can't believe they did that, or you're going to be, holy shit, what the hell is this?
I've heard
you're going to go one way or the other.
I've heard people complain about the ending, but I was kind of just like, okay. I thought it made sense in kind of context of everything else.
Yeah. For me, like I said, it was almost that it was too explainy. You know, like it really does hold your hand all like through this conspiracy that he's been wrapped up in. And
that's
I mean, again, like the reveal, otherwise it's fun. Like it's fun.
Yeah.
Like when her head splits open, the dude melts or like catches. When that woman is like being lifted up by the chain, and then
Yeah.
actually cuts her head off, I was like,
Yeah.
okay.
See,
I
I
like
did.
everything in camera. It's when they broke that rule that's where I kind of fell off. Like when we went inside his head and into his sort of, vision or whatever. That was where I wanted it to stay in camera.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Well,
Casey.
but that's
No.
where I think Eric is saying, like, you have to buy into this idea, which I hadn't necessarily thought of, but it does make sense that like the hypnotism, because we did have that experience. It actually highlights like why that worm scene is so important. Which to
Mhm.
me, when that worm scene is happening, I'm like, this scene is way too fucking long, and then it's ridiculous that we have to relive that scene again and realize that like none
Oh,
of it
I
happened.
love
I
the
don't know,
worm
like
scene.
I loved when it was happening, but then the playback of it, it's just like it took.
That's
way
very
too long
Ghost
for that
Watch.
whole sequence.
That's very
Yeah,
Ghost
well,
Watch. There's
sorry.
moments where they like, it's like
No,
roll
you're
the
fine.
tape back. That was annoying you, and he was like, no, slower, no, slower,
A little bit. It was
no,
getting
take
it
more
was-
time.
I'm
Yeah.
not denying any of the
By the way,
things
Ghost
you're
Watch, a
saying, Schnars.
clean 82 minutes.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm not
in and
denying
out.
anything you're saying, Schnars. You're right. It is overly explainy, and it does get weird as they're explaining that. But to me, that's part and parcel of a cult movie, especially when you get to the older ones. I can't think of any specific examples like coming out cult movies in the 70s or 80s, but cults, what make them scary is all the weird esoteric shit compared to what you're used to religious wise, and they have to do that explaining stuff to make the cult scary. So for me in that back half, what especially, and it's like to Rachel's point too, keeping it in camera, I agree with that too, but I can also see like the second I get into the visionary stuff, because that to me is like a cult movie. They got to explain that stuff, and they got to make it weird to show the power of that cult. Otherwise the cult is just a background character.
Yeah. I guess, are we to believe though that that thing that we watched at the end was being broadcast to everyone? Because
No.
that like
I think
okay.
you could make
I
the
don't.
argument. I think you could make the argument that it was, but I don't necessarily think it.
I don't think so,
was.
because one that backstage interstitial commercial shot that I mentioned of that producer, he was looking at the screen during the first possession, and he looked down at a monitor, and I remember vividly he said, "We're not seeing any of that." Basically, he didn't see all the crazy possession shit on the monitor, is my take. So, and my take, go based off of that little tiny throwaway line, that whole ending, what the people on the feed were watching was him just murdering the shit out of people on stage.
So all right, then here's the like, maybe I'm like again overthinking, but to Rachel's point, like we have to live in the reality of this film to a certain extent and maybe challenge that it's staying true to what it's trying to do. If it's not on the tape, how are we watching the tape?
Good point.
Which is what set up in the beginning.
Well,
you
what
know,
they
like-
did was they last broadcasted it.
Yeah.
That's the whole deal with last broadcast. It was like around the time of Blair Witch. We reviewed it years ago, John.
Yeah.
It's like all found footage until literally 90 seconds before the end, when just out of nowhere it changes to third person.
Almost like it's a backloaded thing or
But-
whatever the word of the day was.
The way that the like final shot is set up here, I sort of thought, and then the film ends with the like end transmission. Like we're actually watching the tape at that point. We're still in the TV set camera, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know the other brilliant
know.
thing that goes.
You just broke my brain, Schnars, because now that I'm thinking about it after my explanation, how are we watching the damn tape?
Yeah.
The other brilliant thing that Ghostwatch does, and it helps tremendously, because Ghostwatch is like, it's all mood. Like not a lot even happens until the very, very end. But part of the way that they sustain that is there's like 3 to 4 settings, like sort of little remotes that they're jumping around to. It's like you got the people in the studio, the kids in the house, and there's obviously like a bunch of rooms in the house. There's like the reporter on the street, and like the phone bank. Like it's just, go watch Ghostwatch, people, if you haven't seen it. It's fucking brilliant.
Ghost watch the measuring stick by which all found footage.
And then I've heard a lot of people too talk about WNUF. We never did that on the show. I don't know if you ever watched that, John, but it was another very similar kind of thing, and they did do like commercials. I didn't actually love it, but
Did we not cover that?
I don't think we did.
No, I remember this movie. I don't think I've ever seen it though,
There's a
because this
sequel,
came
I
out
think,
like
too.
while we were doing the.
But it was very
show.
clearly like a Ghost Watch inspired.
Oh,
kind of-
100%.
But that's like a comedy. That's meant to be like funny, isn't it?
It's a little
More
goofy.
so.
Yeah.
I really liked his sidekick in this. I would have liked to have gotten more of, because he was the only one that was resisting any of the weird shit they did. I would have liked them to expand on that a little more, to kind of build like maybe he's the one seeing the truth or suspicious or something. I think it would have added a bit, because he was the true skeptic, really, if you
Yeah.
think about it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if he was actually the true believer. He wasn't scared that
Yeah.
something was going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, it's funny. I loved the producer guy.
Hmm.
I don't know why. Like, he's just hamming it up. I love that guy.
That
He
guy's
just does like
definitely
Hollywood
just-
sleazeball dude. So good.
I know. I just don't.
And the hair was ridiculous.
I don't know
Yeah.
why any. I mean, I said it already, but like, I don't know why any of that like the commercial break stuff exists, other than to sort of pad out the characters a little. Because the few plot moments you get could have been handled.
I feel
Yeah.
like
I think
considering
you have to let, like, because with the reveal at the end and the thing that he did is so, like, he made a choice. Like, you
Yeah.
have to see the stakes of what he's dealing with, and you have to see kind of, you know, the irony of the struggle of, like, it didn't work ultimately.
Yeah.
So I do think it actually,
Yeah.
if you want to have the resonant ending or have that make any sense, you have to see him struggling and like his desperation to hold on to this job.
Yeah, but like to Eric's point early on, they could have easily taken care of all that problem if you like, you know, thinking in terms of like SNL. They could have just had a one-off line say Lauren likes to watch the backstage and make sure everybody's doing what they're doing, and
the counter argument probably, because they probably considered that at one time. And the counter argument is that the stuff he says backstage is stuff that you'd never want recorded, right? They're like deeply cynical personal conversations about stuff.
Yeah.
One thing that I think is a little confusing is like what we learn in the end is that this guy literally sold his soul to the devil, right? He seems really surprised that there's a demon who knows his name and shit. Like I feel like his performance should have been a little more knowing and like, you know, like it's weird. He seems shocked more than he should be for somebody who's apparently sold his soul to the devil.
That depends on the story you read.
Like he knows occult stuff exists, right? That's like the only reason why he's still there.
Well, I mean, I think he went through, I don't know that he necessarily believed it was real. I think he kind of like got caught up in it at the Bohemian Grove of it all. But I, like Casey, I watched it twice. I watched it again today in preparation. And it was interesting to watch his performance in the flashback with his wife, where she's like giving her final sort of episode together.
He is pretty awkward there.
Yeah.
Well, it reads as grief the first time you watch it, but the second time
he's starting to wonder. Yeah,
it reads as guilt. It's
starting to
interesting.
sink in.
Is there a
watch that
line?
scene.
Because I think I missed it. Is there a line that explicitly lays out that like that's part of the deal? Like she died basically as a part of this deal.
That's
He's
pretty much what she
apologizing
tells
to
him.
her.
Yeah,
Yeah, he apologizes to her
when she's
And-
in the bed at the end.
I heard the apology, but I think I missed
Yeah.
the line that she says.
But that scene of the apology, that's in his head. Like he didn't actually have that apology with her. Like my understanding was he didn't. I do think he didn't like really believe that the stuff was happening and like when she was dying.
No, but
it
if
wasn't
she's
clear to me that he.
But if
he's
she's
been
dead,
100%
he
convinced.
I think
that could
he's
be
gone.
if she's dead, that could be her spirit, right?
And we know that
Yeah.
she shows up at the studio with Christo. So, like,
Yeah.
potentially he could be having this conversation with her. It's really unclear.
Well, sorry, I just meant like that was like he's having that conversation in his head with a
Yeah.
spirit, but he's only expressing that grief to her or that regret to her after the actions of the film have
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah. I mean, my sense was he didn't necessarily he did the ritual but wasn't necessarily a believer, and then after she suddenly, this healthy person that didn't smoke, got sick, like he began to be suspicious. And I think some of his obsession with the occult was maybe wanting to, like, what was in, because he was sort of like in this liminal space of being a believer and a non-believer and having curiosity about it, because he says he has an open mind. So I don't know, and he doesn't seem that shocked when the spiritualist knows the nickname.
When the girl's head explodes and he's just like, "Mer?"
No, early.
I know.
Well, I like that scene a lot too when when he tells us that was his secret nickname for his wife, because it also reads as, well, I mean, it reads like you said that he was kind of surprised that Chris Dew knew is what his secret nickname for his wife, but it also reads as a talk show host who's just trying to save the moment because nobody is answering, and so he's like, "Oh yeah, that was my nickname for my wife," and saving the show and keeping the show moving.
I really actually like, there were some subtle things with the Christo stuff that I really liked, specifically that he is clearly a charlatan to begin with and then has sort of an actual spiritual experience, and he drops his accent at that point.
Oh, I didn't catch that. That's
yeah,
funny.
he completely drops the accent. There's like a lot of little subtle stuff in it throughout the film, little seeds throughout the film that I caught the second time around that is where I think the movie does, like actually thrives and is pretty cool.
Yeah, I'll update my rating. There's not anything shocking you're going to find in a rewatch of this movie when you watch it a second time, but like Rachel says, there's a lot of little things that it's going to stand out to you more.
Yeah.
I thought everybody acting wise in this was pretty solid. I think the cast really carries us through. I as much as I enjoyed this movie, you guys aren't wrong. There's definitely some weird things to argue about here, but I think the cast carries us through this, and I think everybody nails it. And I mean, we've already talked about Carmichael Haig. I think he fit that mood. Chris Dew is great. Like I said, I love the sidekick. Other than the people on the stage that are a part of the show, though, we don't get a whole lot out of with the background characters. I wish we would have gotten more. I never picked up that his manager guy or producer could have been part of that, of the whole thing. I never picked that up. I think they could have inflated that a little bit more to make that a little more obvious.
Well, I don't know if that was just like a thing that I was suspecting. I don't know that that's true.
I mean,
otherwise,
it would make sense that he would be,
because otherwise he's just being smarmy and showing up and saying gross shit to people and disappearing.
I know those people exist too.
Well, Eric doesn't like this spagaptic, but I feel like he had the line of the movie about the orgies.
Yeah.
Do we think that owl suit is like a reference to that? What is that old Italian horror film slasher where the guy's wearing an owl mask?
I just know
it could be
Meatball. What's his name? Meatloaf movie.
It's in Michael Savoy or something.
I mean, it's possible, but also like an owl is like the most generic supernatural reference.
Oh, it's stage fright. It just looks exactly like it. If you've ever seen that film,
that's the Meatloaf one, right? No,
stage fright. Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it is.
It's like the musical slasher with Meatloaf, who I keep wanting to call Meatball, but I know that's not.
I don't think no, it's an Italian film.
Huh.
Did they remake it? They must have remade it.
It's an 87 slasher.
It may or may not contain meatloaf or meatballs. Unclear.
Unless Meatloaf's real name is Giovanni Lombardo Radici.
No.
Okay, there is a remake that stars Meatloaf, I swear to God, from 2014.
Is there an owl-faced slasher killer?
Yes!
No shit. Wow,
Yeah.
Okay. Wild.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, there is. I remember seeing that now.
I really loved the creepy skeleton costume, dude, and I wish something happened there. I felt like they teed that up and then nothing happened.
Well, so
except that he's kind of standing around at the end.
No. Well, so that was one of the things I liked. Though to your point, it's a little maybe it's like underutilized. They seed you when every time they show the audience, like 80-90% of the people are like totally there normal, and then there's just like a couple randos that seem to be there by themselves in costume, and all those people show up in the vision sequence as part of the Bohemian Grove crew. Like I don't know, I just thought that was a fun little thing. That was one of the fun things that I caught first time through. So
it probably could have benefited if they gave us more. What was the name of the secret group again? I know you just said it.
Bohemian Grove.
Yeah, if we would have got a little bit more backstory on that Bohemian Grove, I think it probably would have helped too.
What was the thing we were saying the one day that Casey didn't know what we were saying? The Bilderberg group?
Yes.
And then after he's like,
The
what are you guys
Build-A-Bear?
talking about?
I thought it was the
Build-A-Bear.
Build-A-Bear group, but I'm like, I thought it was just stuffed animals.
They're not unrelated, so
Oh, God.
potentially.
Oh,
I don't know. The way that they present all of the culty stuff here is a little sort of like, that weird cult shit. Like it's. I think you're meant to bring or kind of like project onto whatever you want at a certain
Yeah.
level.
I live in Bohemian Grove country, so like all that stuff resonates, you know? Like,
There
yeah.
you go. hmm
Now I want to watch Starry Eyes again.
all right. Would you recommend this movie, Casey?
Yes.
Rachel?
Yeah, I would actually recommend it with, like but not being like, this is the greatest thing ever. I'd be like, yeah, this is fun. Check it out.
Yeah.
Jonathan?
I will also recommend it by saying it's not the greatest thing ever. No, I'm going to give this a yes.
I would recommend you watch Ghost Watch first if you haven't seen it. Then watch
Mm.
this.
But don't you want them to go up the mountain? Or are you worried it would undercut the Ghost Watch experience?
Exactly. It's more
Ah.
important. It needs to be protected.
I understand.
All right.
Non-polluted.
That's right. Let's take a quick break and do some fan mail.
Next time Matilda's on, you have to ask her about her friend that worked at Bohemian Grove.
Send feedback
which
to
ex-president
info@bloodygoodhorror.com.
threatened her life over
Or on Twitter
over
using
bringing the wrong kind of milk for
BGH.
her
I told
coffee.
Matilda last
Join
time she was on that she should write a
Patreon to
book.
get back episodes and much more. Patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror.
It's titled "That Time the Ex-President Threatened My Life." That's fucking gross.
They also had this thing they used to call them raisins in the oatmeal, which is when the old presidents and old billionaires were so like drunk they'd pass out into their oatmeal. Like, we got a raisin in the oatmeal.
You know how we know Rachel's back? Because the bumper ended and we were still talking.
We talked through the bumpers.
ADHD is a hell of a drug.
info@bloodygoodhorror.com. Email address. Kaylin Kissimmee. So, my boyfriend recently pointed out to me that everyone has a Mountain Dew, meaning something you love, but it makes you trash. I was wondering, what is everyone's Mountain Dew?
Huh.
It might be Mountain Dew Zero.
Oh my god.
I know, I love it. I know.
I mean, I don't know if this counts, but I think I've maybe even said this on the show. I truly cannot control myself around French fries. Like if there is a plate of French fries, I'll just eat them until they're gone.
That's such a
It's-
normal. That's such a normal
Yeah.
answer, John. I hate you.
It's like I can stop eating almost anything. I have like
I don't-
very
But
good
not the
self-control.
not
It's
the
like,
peasant food French fries.
I fucking
Sounds
I
like-
don't know.
Have you
I
heard of
guess.
these French fries? Oh,
No, I can't control myself.
right to my
It's-
waist. I don't know if this is trashy or not, but I have a feeling it might be. But I really like sardines, and I eat them
Ooh.
regularly.
They're like that's like
Ooh.
very in, isn't it? Right now, I think that's like
Well, it's
Yeah.
they're healthy. It's good protein, but I do feel real trashy when I'm opening that tin up.
tinned fish in general. I thought was kind of on
Yeah.
the upswing.
My dad loved those, but he lived through the Depression, man. Like,
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's why I feel trash. When I was a kid, my grandmother would feed us Vienna sausages, and I thought that was like the height of class.
Oh yeah.
ooh,
I've never had one.
pressed
I
meat in
loved
a
those
jelly.
things, dude.
Ugh.
It's like, what if a hot dog was mushy?
Mm.
Is basically what they taste like.
Whew.
It doesn't
honestly-
surprise me that you've never
that
had
kind
one,
of stuff
John.
too, but no, but I'm not against it. I've had lots of.
That's
other
because
weird
you haven't
food
had
from
one.
from my grandparents.
That's honestly a hard question because I mean I like weird shit in general, and I don't know if that makes me look trashy or not. I have an unhealthy
Well-
relationship with bourbon. Does that count?
It depends on what
Yeah.
kind of bourbon. Is it in a
Yeah.
plastic bottle with a handle?
Is it Evan Williams? Maybe.
Was it purchased out of a
But-
bathtub?
How about the fact that it doesn't matter? That may be what
Trash.
makes me
What it
trashy.
is, Does it taste like nice bourbon or paint thinner? I think that's the question.
I just know that the more it burns, the better it is.
I do love. Man, that's honestly of all the things that I miss, bourbon might be the number one.
Yeah.
All right. Caitlin writes in again, episode 63. The First Shenanigans is called by John.
Oh.
And it's about pigeons sitting on his window.
Oh God.
Nice.
Seems harmless, but we all know that birds aren't real. They're tracking agents by the government. I'm not saying lizard people and tracking drones have a feud, but the evidence is strong.
It's true. Birds aren't real.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that.
So there you go.
So that was probably when we had a brief period where it was like 8 or 9 months where we lived in an apartment where the pigeon situation was so bad that we broke the lease and moved out because it was just so out of control. Yeah.
That's insane. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for emails. Casey, what you got?
We got a couple threads out there. First on our good longtime friend, the drugger from Foghat. Does ACAB include Maniac Cop? No.
That's such a good question.
Yeah.
Yes, it does, because his whole slasher thing is like a perverted justice kind of thing. Like,
Yeah, that's true.
he's still a cop. He just happens to have a weird face and stabs people.
This one I like. Comes from Jimmy Lilly, who's the first time we've heard from Jimmy here. It's a good message, though. First, it's a two-parter. First question, do you guys still watch any late night shows? Which one is your favorites? But then in addition to that, Jimmy says, P.S. I've been listening to this show for a while, and I really love the authentic American accent. Cheers from Taiwan.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Taiwan. Wow, that's a new one. You know what's really funny about this question is that, like, while I was watching the show, I just kept ruminating on the fact that I actually think late night television shows are like the lowest, worst form of entertainment available. That, like,
Wow.
it's like you just don't want to go to sleep, so you want to do anything else. So you're like, just watch this bullshit. Literally, I cannot think of anything that I would want to watch less than a late night show.
Oh man,
they're just terrible.
I used to love Letterman. Like from the time I was probably like 8 or 9 till basically not until he went off the air. I went to college.
Like, they make sense to me in a world where there's 3 channels and they all go offline at 1 a.m. Like, all right, there's 3 channels. What am I going to watch? One of these 3 shows.
To me, it all depends on who they're interviewing and whatnot. I used to watch Chelsea Handler, which hasn't been on for years, but I think that's probably the class late night like talk show that I watched regularly. I always liked hers. I always loved like the first half with the panel with the comedian panels, and then the second half with the interview. It depends on who's on, because if it's somebody I don't know or don't care about, I'm not gonna bother watching.
No, my YouTube algorithm has started giving me like shorts of old Craig Ferguson interviews.
Yeah.
Or I'll take it. That he's delightful, but I would never want to just like watch an episode.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever been to a taping for any of those?
No.
It's fun. It's like, I don't know. I mean, you gotta like the show, but I saw Letterman, Conan, and then I saw Leno when I was in LA. So
Cool.
I was posting on Threads this weekend because I've been on a big Conan kick, watching Conan O'Brien Must Go and his Hot Ones interview and listening to his podcast. So I've been fired up on Conan this week, talking about it on Threads. And somebody's telling me, like, at the early days when he took over late night, it was easy to get tickets because he was still new and early. So they'd go like once a week, and they said Conan would always come out and work the crowd for the pre-show work. And I just think that would have been amazing to see.
I love him too.
Yeah.
I wouldn't watch his show, but I love him.
I miss Colbert Report. I loved the Colbert Report. I don't watch it in Colbert now, but the Colbert Report.
I was going to say, he still exists.
No, I liked that character a lot.
Yeah.
The only thing even in that realm that I watch is Last Week Tonight.
Oh,
I just love
if you
John
want to be
Oliver.
pissed off, that's a great
But that's
show.
even adjacent. I wouldn't even call that necessarily the same thing.
So I watch Daily Show and After Midnight nowadays, but I cheat because I'm 50 and I watch it with my coffee the next morning.
There you go.
There's somebody on the Daily Show that I see clips of. She's like a blonde lady who's
Desi
really
Lydic.
funny. Yeah, I really like her a lot.
Yeah, she's great. I think she would be awesome. Somebody posted on Threads too on who you want to be the full-time host of the Daily Show. Desi is my vote. Her and that Jordan Klepper are pretty great. They're really good together too. All right, we got a couple more here. Next up, Contented_Winter. Would you watch a series of movies around this same premise, as in found lost footage of fake TV shows with a scary twist like this in Ghostwatch?
A series, huh?
I don't think a series would work, but an
They could barely
anthology would
keep it
work.
together for one movie. How are you going to make a series?
I think anthology would work because I got to think she's thinking if it was more compressed, it'd be easier to hold up. If I think about it in that way, an anthology would be a good way to do it. You can get like 3 or 4 of them in there. I didn't want to watch like 10 episodes of this. I don't think.
It's hard because, right, like the format is a 1-hour late night show.
Right.
So to get to movie length, you have to add something to it, or you go the other direction, and then you're ending up with.
What
like
if
a
you just
30-minute,
made like a kind of, ooh, I got ready, like a one camera, like, you know, no audience, but like a sitcom that is like a TV version of like Coast to Coast,
Yeah.
where they just bring in, but it's sort of like what was that late night show with Gary Shandling where it was like the behind the scenes of late night?
Oh,
that
the
show?
Gary,
The
yeah,
Gary
Gary
Shandling
Your
show.
Shanley show?
Gary
No,
Shandling
he
show,
had a
yeah.
name. He had like a fake name. That's what the name of the show
Right.
was. God damn it.
I remember. It's been a while.
Yeah, I'm looking. Larry Sanders. I knew it was Larry something. I couldn't.
Yeah. So anyway, that kind of premise, but make the show like a coast to coast deal. So the people that come in are just weirdos and paranormal people and cryptozoology, like all that shit. So, but it would be more of a comedy.
Yeah, that would be the key. Is you can't be.
I'm not gonna lie. That's fucking brilliant. Make it.
Yeah.
Let's make it happen.
The key is you can't have every episode trying to out weird the other episode. It's just got to be a series of weird shit that we stumbled upon instead of this one was scary last week, but wait till you see this.
Yeah. It's why Ghostwatch is genius though, because like if I remember, it's just the news. So they're like, we're following the story, and the story.
Well,
can
it's
go
a
on as long as
special, but they bill it as like a news special.
Yeah. But I just mean like then you can break like the time piece of it doesn't become as much of a fixation.
We should take this opportunity to bring up too. So like, okay, years ago we reviewed Ghost Watching the show. It's the first time some of us have seen it.
YouTube video of all time.
It's the first time most of us have seen it. We throw that on YouTube. Yeah, it is our most watched video still. And there are like dozens of just heinously hateful comments on it. Almost entirely from British people who like saw it as a kid and must have gone to YouTube and searched it. And at the time, I would put stills from the movie as thumbnails. I actually stopped doing it because we were getting like really annoying. We were getting pinged for copyright, which is such bullshit. So I just stopped doing that. I don't even know if that was the issue, but like, I think people see the still and they're like, oh yeah, I want to watch the movie. And they click on it. And it's us talking about the movie. And it's all just about how we're just like American wankers. We don't know what we're talking about. Like, blah, blah. Like people are fucking incensed that we put this video up on YouTube. It's my favorite thing. It still gets comments. This was over 10 years ago we put that up.
Eric just gets he's very sensitive about being called a wanker. So it's hard for him.
Oh, I had to look it up.
It's hard for me to be offended by like British insults. Like they're probably very well constructed, but like
I'm gonna go look
at.
I'm
funny.
I'm gonna go there right now.
Like bugger, wanker, and whatever other things. Yeah, like, I just can't like get the anger up.
You're a git, right? Git.
Yeah, I get. Yeah.
All right, we got one last thread out there from our good buddy Metal Prof. What was scarier, the demon or the 70s clothing style?
Dude, I want that suit that she's wearing, the little like vest and bell bottom.
I was gonna say she was on point.
Yeah. I want to have a vintage ass. Like
I mean, this was set in 77. I would.
Bye, Casey.
Oh, Casey's gone.
Oh no.
So yeah, definitely the demon.
Okay, somehow I'm looking at all the YouTube comments and all I see are positive comments right now. And what happened, John?
Maybe they got filtered, bro. I don't know. I didn't touch it, but
maybe
England
Would
had
YouTube
like all
do
of
that?
England had a change of heart, and they're like, let's go back. Let's be the
it
change
might
we
have
want to
been
see in
like
the
one
world.
or two nasty comments, and you extrapolated into there was nonstop barrage of. But Casey's back. You should add him to the show. And also, Eric, we're ready for the Instagram comments to the extent.
I know, but I wanted to find these hateful comments on YouTube and I can't.
I'm sorry.
Oh, here's a funny one. Have I missed something? Where's the video of the program GRAMME? Rather than the various faces discussing the shit.
Mhm.
Wow.
Then next one, all caps,
How dare they-
all caps, sheeple. This is a mockumentary, but it's lost on you Yanks. That's amazing.
See what I mean? Yanks. I mean, it feels like a hug.
Sheeple.
What a scam. Wonder how some may still think people can be interested in a bunch of obscure strangers talking of random stuff for so long. Obscure stranger is like the most amazing insult anyone has ever hurled at me.
And guess what, buddy? It's been 10 years and those obscure strangers are still talking to nobody on the internet.
Erg,
There you
make
go.
it clear this is a random group video chat and not the TV. Have you heard of a fucking podcast? That was 2 years ago. This guy wrote this. Sorry, and not the TV show. The thumbnail is misleading at best. The video to me is also a bunch of opinions that nobody's ever going to pay to listen to. Those who do, those
Send in
who
the
do
Patreon.
pay,
Surprise!
those who do pay have more money to burn than those who care about humanity. Given there's starving people in the world, yet content like this online can turn a
All right, I
profit.
take it back.
Makes
There
no
are some
sense.
Nasty comments.
Wow. Eric, look at you taking the food out of the mouths of starving children.
Now
I
we're getting to
know.
Yeah.
so now we're getting to the ones I remember. This guy says, "Not the movie. Period. Just a bunch of kids talking. Boring."
Kids.
Here we go. Somebody's defending us. Yes, and that's very easy to figure out if you just read the description before you even click play in the video. Hell yeah, that guy. What's that guy's name? You're cool.
Eric's also like,
I like
friend this guy
Next
on
one.
YouTube.
Who listens to this? Question mark. The next one. This post demonstrates everything I hate about our current culture. I'm not going to say more, but just ponder what I mean. That sounds like
Wow.
AI. That's amazing.
I haven't kept up with these comments. You really
one-
have been paying
I want
This
to
one's
print
new.
them and put them on a T-shirt. Like I want the obscure stranger one on a T-shirt.
This one's from a year ago. There really aren't enough unfunny Americans doing commentaries of films who say like in every sentence.
Hmm.
Well, come
Oh,
on over to the
that's fair.
Zombie Girls. We got you.
Oh god, that was
There's 4 of us doing it.
I'm glad I found it. That felt pretty good. 75 comments. That's got to be the most comments. It has 700. No, it has 73,000 views on it. Unreal.
It's good times.
Who's
That's
smart
awesome.
now, British people? You don't even know how to find
Yeah.
the video you're looking for on YouTube.
I like that he was very concerned about our profits, all the profits that were running away from
We're taking
us.
food out of starving children's mouths, John.
I'll have you know, we make
Yeah.
dozens of dollars a month.
Yeah, the profits.
Thank you, Laura. I also think this is the best part of the show. So you're welcome. All right. You're welcome, John. Let's look at Instagram. All right. From Zach. Will more people discover Ghostwatch because of this? Have you all seen WNUF? I don't know. Are they
I've
talking? I guess it depends. Are they talking about Ghostwatch in the promotion?
I think there's a sequel to WNUF,
There is.
which
Yeah,
I
there's-
haven't seen, but otherwise, I enjoyed WNUF. But I saw WNUF before Ghostwatch, and I enjoyed it. Having watched Ghostwatch for this show, I do agree it's superior.
Well, that's just what a random stranger says.
Yeah,
An obscure stranger.
An obscure stranger.
sorry. It's even better. Obscure stranger. Jesus Christ.
Unlike
Obscure
the
stranger
other-
where you like sit on your hand till it goes numb before you do something.
I've never felt so red to filth in my life.
maybe not.
Just an obscure stranger. Next up, is it time for David Dalmatian to consistently be a leading man in horror?
Oh yeah,
I mean, he was on the Dracula in a Boat movie last year.
Oh right.
I mean, he's been in a lot of movies. Leading man would be strong. Like he's.
I will
He is
throw
here.
out there because of his
I
time
get
as his time as Polka Dot Man. I do want to see David Dalmatian do more horror, but stick with James Gunn too.
He was also really good in what was that? Prisoners. Did you guys ever see Prisoners?
Mm-mm.
Where he
I
was, like-
haven't seen it. I would like to watch that though.
That's the first thing I ever saw him in, and he's really creepy in it. I
Well,
would
'cause
Nice.
he's
highly
in
recommend.
Dune. He's in Dune as well. He looks actually like the same he always looks, like real weird, but he's got he's one of the baddies. I don't know I can't remember what they're called. Who fucking can keep up with all the clans and whatnot? But yeah.
John, you and I were just talking about social clips for the show. I think we know what the first one should be.
Isn't Prisoners Villeneuve too?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I guess
that was what I was making. That's the connection I was making.
Next up, how often do you feel like horror movies do something genuinely new or innovative these days?
I mean,
Yeah, my answer to him was like,
weird indie shit.
I feel like about once or twice a year, I feel genuinely like inspired by something that's like really creative, and that's not the worst ratio, I guess.
Well, when you have seen as much as we've seen at this point, like, yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And honestly, at that point, like you said, as much as we've watched for the show over 17 years, to me, the real deciding factor is if it's something that I still remember and think about like 2 weeks later.
Totally.
That's like the marker.
Yeah. This is from Craig, and it's funny because I think Casey said the same thing to us over text. Were you guys thrown by the 47 overdone animated studio logos before the movie started?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you keep thinking the movie's starting.
Yeah.
You're like,
they get longer and longer.
Yeah.
It was definitely the most I've ever seen.
That monkey paw one, like, it's the same logo we've seen a million times, but they added more to it to get to the paw start of the T.
Last question of the evening. We didn't even talk about the AI thing, but now I'm sleepy. So I'll just say this.
So fired up about it too.
The AI art's really shitty. And I won't even get into the debate of like the morality of it. Everybody's got different feelings. Yeah, the skeleton with the weird hands and the pumpkins that aren't pumpkins. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You could have paid an artist $300 to make some incredible little title card. It's
$5 on Fiverr. Like,
yeah, it's a completely bizarre decision. And okay, if you really like want to use AI, fine. But I cannot believe that then AI spit that out, and somebody was like, "Boom, that's it. No second prompt. We got it." And I know that they came out and said like an artist did a pass on it. That is straight up a lie. Like there is no way an artist did anything to that.
Yeah.
Except put a filter over it or something. Like that's such bullshit.
Yep.
Yeah.
I ranted.
It is weird. I can't defend it. It's like
it's just a puzzling decision. Like it doesn't make because the whole film is so lovingly created. The whole 70s thing, the costuming, the characters, the writing, like it's so lovingly recreated. Mm-hmm. How do you get to that one part and just go like, fuck it? Because that's basically what you're doing. You're just saying, fuck it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, like I know David Dalmatian has like done some interviews about it, and he was like, it was very early in it because it was a few years ago, and they were just describing it as like an art tool. But I don't know, man.
Yeah,
I just can't believe somebody looked at that skeleton and was like, nailed it, bro.
Man.
That's a good point too. I mean, this was probably, like you said, this is made like 3 years ago, and that AI art debate was not what it is now.
Right.
Oh, yeah, and the image generation was so much worse, but also like then don't do it.
Right. Well, like everybody was saying on Slack today, you could go to some place like Midjourney on your computer
Midjourney
right now
can
and make
that
something
thing
better.
now. Yeah. Anyway, last question of the evening. Now that M. Night's daughter is making movies, is Schnars excited to mispronounce Shyamalan again? It's been a while.
Sure am.
Well, not that long. We did that movie last year.
Her movie comes out, it's like in like 4 or 5 weeks. It's pretty soon. And then he has a movie coming out in like 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go ahead and say, let's just limit it to one Shyamalan movie per year.
I don't know.
They're different people. Yeah. You could argue. They're.
It's funny because I saw the trailer for Watchers before whatever the last thing I saw in the theater, and it was like from producer M. Night Shyamalan, and you're like, oh, cool. And then it's like the direct. I can't remember the daughter's name,
I think it's
but
Ashana.
It's like,
yeah,
it's like Ashana Shyamalan. You're like, oh. Literally from him, literally of of
Did
Shyamalan.
anybody watch Servant? Am I the only one that watched Servant?
No, I
No.
watched it.
She directed quite a bit of that.
Did she?
Yeah.
I did not know that. The only thing
Yeah.
I know about her movie that's coming out that he's producing is people on the internet speculating that, because I think she's trying to start a music career at the same time, and some people are saying this is Dad trying to help her get noticed. So I really don't know what to expect from her.
Hmm.
I did enjoy Servant though.
Hmm.
She
Yeah.
is. Whatever. She doesn't need any. She'll be fine.
No,
No.
I'm just saying that's what I read on the internet. I'm not saying I'm buying into
Alright.
anything.
There's a lot of go on the internet. So,
All right.
The internet generally does not have a kind opinion of him and his work, so I could see where
I'm
there's
sure
some
they'll be
vitriol.
much kinder to his daughter.
Oh yeah.
If history's any indicator.
Yes. Mhm.
All right. You guys were discussing what are we gonna do this week, John? We might do tarot, but I qualified that with I need to watch a trailer first. before
yeah,
I get into
that
it.
is the current. That's the current.
So you'll
status.
know the review if next week you tune in. and
If it's something
tarot.
else, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's a bunch of theatrical stuff coming up, right, John?
Yeah, well, we got to decide if we're seeing Planet of the Apes, and then we also are going to have to make a call on Furiosa. Those are coming up in the next couple weeks.
I gotta say, I might be with Casey on that Apes movie. It looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
I'm always
Guys.
down for more apes, so
I mean,
I'm already
only
an
one
ape
of
over
those
here.
movies wasn't good. Like the other
I'm already
two
an ape
were
over here
good.
trimming my nose hair, John. I might as well go watch the movie.
So we have Tarot in theaters. Tarot is coming this week. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. So we get to that. Strangers Chapter 1 is coming. We get
Sweet.
to that. I haven't even seen a trailer for this Strangers movie.
I have.
I got
Teasing.
one.
It looks like a Strangers movie.
Yeah, I got one
Yeah.
last week. It looked
I never
exactly
saw the
like a
second one,
Strangers
which
movie.
I know it's supposed to be pretty
The,
good.
s-
So.
the second one fucks. It's a little.
Yeah.
Not everyone feels that way, John. But the correct opinion is that it fucks. It's basically like a modern version of an 80s slasher sequel. Is what Pray at Night feels like.
Rachel, are you going to weigh in on Prey Night?
So I haven't seen any of the Strangers movies.
Oh, wow. Oh, boy.
I know. And here's the thing: is
Your
I'm
Strangers
doing the
card has
press
been
for the
revoked.
new one, so I have to like cram. I have some work to do because I have interviews lined up for this new one. Yeah.
It's like hard to. That Strangers movie hit it that was like a thing when it happened. You know, I don't know that you're going to be able to like recreate the experience of what Strangers 1 was all about, but
I mean, to be honest, I'm more excited to watch Strangers 2 just because I want to look at Christina Hendricks for an hour and a half. So
Well, spoiler alert, you're not going to see her for an
No.
hour and a half, but
no.
she's there for a little bit.
Okay.
she gets her moment.
Maybe I'll just rewind it and watch her part over until it gets.
You always got Mad Men.
Oh, and so we were discussing it, I guess, over text, but In a Violent Nature. That's beginning of June. That is the what was it? Atmospheric slasher. What did they call it?
Yeah.
No,
Atmospheric slasher.
No.
Yeah.
Ambient slashers.
Ambient.
Oh yeah, ambient slasher. Yes.
But based on the trailer, it basically looks like. Did you ever see the movie Elephant?
Yes.
It looks like Elephant, but as a slasher movie, like where we're just following behind. Like it's the same shot from the whole Elephant movie. Although it looks like maybe it's not just that
I
the
think
whole
it's in
time.
woods.
But it looks like you're basically following the slasher, walking around the woods and like stalking people and stuff. I
That
don't
looks
know,
like
it
it's coming
I can
straight to
feel the
Shutter,
think
doesn't it?
piece.
What's that, Rachel?
Said I can feel the think pieces forming right now.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. It
around
looked
Well,
pretty
it was-
interesting. I mean, it looked interesting though. The little.
It was like a
trailer piece
big
was-
Sundance thing. It was like you know.
But I think
and
it's
then The
releasing
Watchers
direct
is
to
after that.
Shutter, isn't it?
No,
When
I
is
mean it's getting
Caitlin-
theatrical.
When is Caitlin Cronenberg's movie? That's coming up pretty soon too.
Ooh.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Is she a Cronenberg?
She's
Yeah.
daughter.
No,
Cronenberg.
it's a different
Excellent.
family.
I don't know.
Humane.
Yeah.
It looks like it's streamable right now.
I mean, I haven't seen
Oh.
it yet, so I can't speak to it.
Is
but-
that the one with Jay Baruchel? Yes, that is
Ooh.
floating around out there.
Maybe we should we can plug that in. Eric, you let
I'm
us
not.
know how
I
you feel
haven't
about
seen it.
Tarot.
I have not seen it.
It gets the Cronenberg gets a vote for me either way.
That's what I
so.
figured. Yeah.
Is it a horror film?
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
Well,
It's kind of like a horror satire thing set like near future where people have to like self-select to euthanize.
God, what is wrong with these fucking Cronenbergs, John? Like they all
I
got the same
know.
shit on their mind.
I
Like
love it.
Jesus Christ.
Let's
We're all gonna
go!
die. We're all gonna
Let's
die in
go!
decay. Okay, get over it. We all have buttholes. I'm sorry. It's just the way the body works. Like, what happened to you people? Jesus Christ! All right, I think that's where we call it. I don't know what we're doing last week. Is the point of that 10-minute conversation? Let's join us on Slack, patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror. Come hang out with a bunch of obscure strangers. We would love it.
Yeah.
And
Not those strangers that you're familiar with. And
no, only obscure ones. Rachel, real quick, where can people find you?
You can find me all across the Zombie Girls Podcast Network, or you can follow me on all of the platforms at Reachy Pants.
Love it. All right, that's gonna do it. We'll talk to you next week.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.